Welcome to PlanHub's Masterclass courses. My name is Jessica, and in this video, we'll be diving deep into the Assemblies page that is part of the estimation tools. Let's start with a brief overview of where assemblies fit into bids, estimates, and takeoffs. The origin of a bid is commonly an estimate. An estimate is a list of cost items that account for what it will take to complete the work you are bidding. This can include many different items, such as material, labor, equipment, allowances, and subcontracted work. You can use takeoff tools to obtain measurements to help you estimate project needs. When we perform measurements in takeoff, our output is provided in common unit types. Some of the materials we install will perfectly align with our measurement units. An example of this is luxury vinyl tile, or LVT. Commonly, this is a 12 by 12 piece of tile. This means that my total square foot measurement will be the same as the total number of tiles needed. However, for most estimates, it's not that simple. For example, when we install LVT, we also need to use adhesive. This is what sticks those tiles to our subfloor. Adhesive is purchased typically by a multi-gallon bucket. If I have a 5-gallon bucket of adhesive that covers 2,000 square feet per bucket, my total square footage unit of 500 square feet does not equal 500 buckets. To convert that 5-gallon bucket, I'll need to do some math every time I work up an estimate for this material install. This is where assemblies come into play. We use assemblies to help us quickly convert measurements into digestible cost items and bills of materials. What is an assembly? An assembly is any combination of item types that, when assembled together, have a specific purpose and function. Assemblies are groupings of cost items. Each individual cost item accounts for material or labor that is required to perform the install of a particular product. Each cost item has a handy formula that converts your takeoff measurement units into an easy-to-understand breakdown of what it will take to install a specific product. Now that we have a better understanding of what assemblies are and where they get used, let's dive into the Assemblies page in PlanHub. To get to the Assemblies, click on the Assemblies tab in your Takeoff tool. The Assemblies page has a list of all assemblies you and your team have created and saved. Each assembly has an owner. This is the user that created the assembly. If you have multiple users, only the owner of the assembly can edit or delete the assembly. Users on your account who are not the owner of an assembly can utilize or duplicate an assembly. This means that you can build out a library of assemblies as a team. If you or your team have not created any assemblies, you will see a list of assembly examples. These examples do not have a unit price or formula attached to the line items. You can use the search bar to search for an assembly by name. Use the checkbox next to an assembly to select one or more assemblies to perform a bulk action. Click on the Actions drop-down and select the action you wish to perform. You can add an assembly to your estimate, duplicate an assembly, or delete an assembly. You can also use the action buttons to take action on one assembly. You can use the plus sign to add it to an estimate, the edit sign to edit that assembly, the duplicate icon to duplicate the assembly, the trash can icon to remove the assembly, and the arrow to expand to see a list of all cost items within the assembly. Once expanded, the duplicate plus sign icon is how you add this cost item to your library. To create a new assembly from scratch, click Create Assembly. When creating or editing an assembly, you have two areas: the Assembly Creation area and the Cost Item Library area. All assemblies must have an assigned name. I recommend naming the assembly after the product you have listed in the assembly or the type of install you're performing. I'll name this one LVP plus adhesive plus labor. Next, I need to select which of the measurement tools this assembly will be available for. Because this is for flooring, I will select the area, as I will commonly take my flooring measurements using the area tool. All other fields in the assembly title are optional. Next, we need to start adding our cost items. You can use the library of saved cost items to help you build an assembly. Because I've already created some LVP named cost items in my cost item library, I can search those out using my search bar. To add these items to my assembly, I'll check them off and click Add. To remove an item, check it off and click Remove. You may wish to create a cost item from scratch. To do this, click Add New Cost Item. As a quick tip, once you use this assembly in an estimate, you can save your cost item you created from scratch to your library. Start filling in your cost item information. Give your line item a name and then give it a description. I like to include either how I purchased this or what I want my output to be. For this particular assembly, I want to know how many sticks of transition strip I will need to purchase. The more fields that you fill in for each of your cost items, the less editing you will need to do once this item has been pushed through an assembly into an estimate. Each of these line items will need to have the fields updated and formulas attached. I'll click the edit symbol on each line item. For my actual flooring count, I expect to experience about a 15% waste. For my labor, nobody wants to experience waste on labor, but I do want to account for some slight waste on my labor. We'll put 10%. Next is my adhesive. I don't expect to experience too much waste. I'm going to go ahead and put 5%. And for my transition strips, because these are very specific to the opening size, most openings are anywhere between 3 and 4 feet wide for doorways. I'm going to enter in a higher waste percentage. Next is my unit cost. Because these first 3 items came from my library, I don't need to fill it in for the first 3. However, for this last one that I'm creating from scratch, I will need to enter in my unit cost. Next, I'll enter in my local tax rate. I'll select what my item type is for any missing fields. Then I'll identify my unit of measure. Because I purchased these sticks individually, I'll select each. Now let's stop and talk about how we prepare for our formula, our unit cost, and our unit of measure, and how all of this ties in. For the flooring, when I create this formula, I want to be able to use this particular assembly on many different types of LVP flooring. LVP flooring can vary by the brand and the particular make in length and width. When I enter in a unit cost of $72.15, that amount is by the case. I get 7 pieces of LVP flooring in each case. So I'm going to update this unit cost to reflect how much each piece of flooring costs. That way, my unit cost, my unit of measure, and the formula I plan to use align with each other, and my output will be the total cost for each individual piece of expected LVP flooring. For my labor, I've identified that it's about $2 per square foot of LVP flooring. So my unit cost is $2 and my unit of measure is square feet. For the adhesive, that attaches this flooring to whatever my subflooring material is, I purchased this by the 5-gallon bucket. Each 5-gallon bucket covers about 2,000 square feet. Each bucket is about $180. My unit cost should align with my formula and my unit of measure. Now that I've filled out all these fields, save your changes by clicking on the save symbol. Click the F of X to start working on your formula. In your formula pop-up view, you'll note at the top is the name of the assembly you're currently working on. Next is the line item that this formula will be attached to. Next, we have our formula name. The name is up to your preference. However, I do recommend giving a name that aligns with what the purpose of this formula is. For example, I have already created a formula to help me account for variable different sizes of flooring install. To identify how many flooring units I'll need, I multiplied my length and width in inches of my flooring and divided that by 144, which is the number of inches per square foot, took that entire total and divided it by the total area. Once you've created your formula, click Apply to Cost Item. For our labor, because we charge $2 per square foot for the labor, all I need to do is have the area equal the unit. So I'll use the search bar to search for any area formulas I've already created. If I have not created one, we'll go ahead and create one. Because this is a one-to-one, the name of the formula will just be area. Next, I'll click into the formula box and select the variable that I wish to use. Then click Save and Apply to Cost Item. Now let's create the formula for the adhesive. Each 5-gallon bucket of adhesive covers an average of 2,000 square feet. This means a 2,000 square foot square is equal to one bucket. The formula will be the area divided by 2,000. To test a formula, click Test Formula. Enter an area or variable and click Run. The result is provided below, telling me how many buckets I will need. If you wish to have this number rounded up to the next whole number, click Round Up Result. For this product, I want to see the decimal. Once you have created your formula, click Save and Apply to Cost Item. For my transition strips, these will be applied in very specific sections of the perimeter of my flooring. We'll name this formula Length by the 6-foot stick. Now for this formula, I will not use the length variable because I do not want the system to automatically pull the perimeter length because I do not need transition strips along the entire perimeter of every area measurement. However, I do need it for very specific areas. So I'm going to create a custom variable. I'll click Create New, and this variable will be named Transition Strips. I'll save, and I'll add that variable to my formula. Next, I'll take my total length of transition strips and divide it by the length I get from each stick. Now I can't purchase partial sticks, so I am going to round this number up. Then I'll save and apply it to the cost item. We have added our cost items and created our formula. I am checking off Add to Takeoff library so that this will be saved as one of my saved measurements in my Takeoff library and clicking Save Changes. Let's go see what this looks like. Navigate to your Takeoff, select the page you wish to work on, and click on Library in your Measurements panel to the right. Here you can see that assembly I just created saved as a measurement type within my library. Let's put this assembly to use. Click on the plus sign next to the assembly you wish to use. Make any adjustments to the measurement name, description, scale, or the colors that you wish to make. Begin taking your measurement. Let's speed past the measurement process. Okay, I've measured all the areas where the LVP is going to be installed. Next, I need to measure all the lengths that need a transition strip. I'll use my linear tool and select the line option. Rename your measurement and begin measuring. Now that I've measured my total square footage of area for LVP install and my transition strips, because I included that in my assembly, I can now put this assembly to use in my estimate. Right-click or click on the Actions option for the measurement. Next, click Add to Estimate. Select the page within the estimate you would like your results to land in. You can create a new page or you can send it to an existing page. If you've not created any pages for this project yet, click Create New. Now we need to start entering in some information. I created this assembly to be usable with many different flooring sizes. Now I will enter in the length and width of the flooring I plan to install. For the LVP transition strip, I'll use the linear footage that I measured over here. Click Insert Your Values. Note that you receive a confirmation message. This message includes a hyperlink. To open up your estimate in a new tab, click on the hyperlink. Now I can see my estimated cost for this flooring install. I hope you log in and start creating your own assemblies with your own custom variables. Thank you for watching.